Essay writing guide with me, Axel Enquist. I'm going to go through 3 simple steps that's going to tell you how to write a perfect essay. First of all, I'm going to define what an essay really is, and usually it's an analysis of some kind of source. It could be a book, a report, or an article, and that's pretty much it. The analysis is made of the book, and you need to have the book as a source of information. You do not use outside sources, usually, depending on what kind of essay, but this is the general form. And it concludes 3 parts. It's the introduction, body paragraphs, and conclusion. And there's something that you're not supposed to do. And first of all, you should not reflect on your own opinions. You should not talk directly to the reader, like if you have found yourself in the same situation or something like that. Don't use a parallel to the outside world, and especially no contractions in the text. Don't summarize too much from the source, because it could be hard to have a certain source. It could be unclear. So it's better to use a complete quote. And do not mention things that are not in the plot or the book. And the process is really that you start with the body paragraphs. Most of the time people start with the introduction, but that's wrong. That's the last part. So you start with the body paragraphs, then the conclusion, and in the end the introduction. So the body paragraphs. The size of the paragraphs depends a little bit on what kind of fact that you want to support or so forth. So it could depend, but usually 300 words per paragraph. And an essay should have at least 3 paragraphs. But an extremely important thing is that you should just have 1 point in each paragraph. And always have a quote or something to back up your opinion. If you take too long quotes, it could be you have to have another form where you make the text smaller and so forth, which could make the structure of the essay bad. So therefore, don't use too long quotes. Keep it under 20 words or 30 or something. And a tip. Write down every thought and point that you have got during reading the article or book, and then put them together into paragraphs. So you just write everything down, and then you put them together if they fit, and then you choose the best ones. And it's not bad if you use more than 3 paragraphs. It's just then you just back up your statement more. And here's an example. As you can see, the things that are marked in red, that's the quotation, the pages of the quotations. So you can see in every paragraph he has at least 2 or 1 paragraph quote. So he backs up his opinion, and he has more than 3 paragraphs, and they are not very short, and the quotes are in an okay size. So the conclusion could be between 50 or 150 words. It also depends on the size of the essay. And it could be good to have a clear beginning of the summary. Like, for example, you can start it with "the conclusion is," or "to sum up." And you should also retell the 3 or more body paragraphs and link them together. So I made an example here. Since Mr. X does this, this, and this, that is the 3 paragraphs, a pattern appears. So there I have linked them together. From the quotes a conclusion can be drawn that Mr. X does not, and so forth. So you see, I mention the body paragraphs and I then draw a conclusion from them. That's a nice way to end your essay. And I have an example here. it doesn't start it in a very good way, I would say, but because you don't know that this is the conclusion. The conclusion, however, is marked in red in this PowerPoint. So, or the thing that I would say is the start of the conclusion. This confirms the fact, because it shows that now we will draw the conclusion. Otherwise, he mentions what he already said in the body paragraphs. So I would say it's pretty good. The introduction. It should be between 100 and 200 words. It also depends on the size of the essay. And it should be a text that makes the reader understand your thesis statement. So you have a thesis statement. I'm going to tell you what that is later. But that's, what you're aiming about. What is you writing about in this essay? And the introduction is going to tell us, how did you find this thesis statement and so forth. And in the introduction, you can only use 3 rhetorical questions. And the thesis statement now. What have you seen that's not obvious? Is a good way to think. Like, you can't write about something that you clearly could see or something. You need to find the evidence in the text that proves it. And to start the introduction, you should not start with the book is about or I'm going to write about. And in this part, as well as all the other parts, you can't use use your own opinion or say things like I'm, you, us, me. Just leave that outside and make it without personal pronouns. So here's an example of it. The first red mark is that he tells us what is happening in the book. Well, he goes from being free to being not free. So, he tells us a little bit of what is the source about. And then the other red part, that is the thesis statement. And it goes, if Winston were to betray his central values, however, he would cease to be free. So he tells us that he's going to investigate or back up the point that if he betray his central values, he will cease to be free. And that's pretty much it. That's what an essay is all about.
Thank you, Axel, and welcome to the article writing guide by me, Magnus. The article is a piece of text usually intended for publication in a newspaper, magazine, or in a journal. The article is probably the most common text type in our everyday life. And it may be a sport article about the Olympics, a news article about the Syria conflict, or so on. The article is a formal text and usually contains following parts: an interesting headline, an introduction, a main body, and a conclusion. The headline is a very important part of the article, even though it seems simple and short. The purpose with the headline is to catch the reader's interest and to make him read the article. Imagine yourself turning the leaves in a newspaper. The first thing, and most commonly the only thing you read, is the headline. The first paragraph of the article is the introduction. The introduction is supposed to keep the reader's interest and clearly define the topic of the article. After the introduction comes the main body. The topic of the article, which the introduction introduced, will now be described in a more detailed way. In the article, if the article is about a news story, details and elaboration is evident in the body. The readers often adds quotations to add interest and to support the article. And the main body usually is 2 paragraphs or longer. In the end of the article comes the conclusion, which summarizes the topic of the article. The conclusion sometimes adds an opinion of the author, a comment, or maybe a quote from someone involved, or maybe a recommendation from someone. Important things to think of when you write an article is that you think of 3 important points when you start writing. These 3 are where, who, and what. Where is the article going to appear? Is it going to appear in a newspaper, or in a blog, or a magazine only for teenagers? And that leads us to the second point. Who are the intended readers? And the third point is, what is the aim of the article? Is the aim to advise, to inform, to suggest something, or to compare two different things, or maybe describe an event or something? These 3 points are very important, and they are major factors when it comes to the layout of the article. The formality of the language in the article is mainly based on the who point, and 2 common rules when it comes to writing articles are that you cannot use over-personal language or over-emotional language. And you may not talk about yourself in the article, because you're not going to write the article to a group of friends or someone who knows you. So that's important. Here's an article that was published in The Guardian, a British newspaper, which is very big worldwide. And it's about the Swedish justice chef, Beatrice Ask, who posted a link on Facebook who was not true, and that brought up very big discussions worldwide, and people kind of laughed at her. As we see, the headline of this article is very clear, and it catches the reader's interest. And after that, we have the short introduction, which kind of wants the reader to know more about Beatrice and what she did. And then we have the three or four paragraphs with the body, and at least we have the conclusion, which adds a possible comment from Beatrice's press officer, which then end the article. And that's about it. Think about these things when you write an article, and I'm sure you will do great. Thank you.
Hello, this is Tobias Andersson, and I'm here to help you write a good report. So, thank you, Axel and Magnus, for your previous guides on how to write different texts. Let's get to it. What makes a good report? Well, it should be well structured. It should have correct and adequate referencing. It should clearly answer the thesis or the well-formulated question. It should have good and relevant material. It should clearly relate results to purpose. And it should always use formal writing. An important thing to remember when writing a report. You must read the issue very carefully. And if you don't quite understand what to do, you should then read it again more carefully. And if you've read it a couple of times, or at least a couple of times, and you still don't know exactly what to do, you should talk to your tutor or your study advisor. You don't want to guess on this part, because it's critical for the actual report. So, another important thing to remember is you must keep every bit of information in the correct place. And so you may wonder, what goes where? Well, reports, or generally a report, consists of the following: a front page, abstract, table of contents, introduction, background, purpose and research question, method, materials, results, discussion, conclusion, reference list, and appendices. And what does these different headlines consist of? So the front page should be the cover of your report. It should contain the name of the report and the title of the report. It should contain, the writer, the tutor, the school, and the program. And the abstract, short summary of the work, should present the purpose, issues, and results in a very concentrated manner. Table of contents, list everything that the work includes, and reference it by page number. And introduction, this is where the page numbering begins. So it should contain the background. What kind of background do you need to know, or what kind of background information do you need to understand this report more thoroughly? And purpose and research question. So what's the purpose of the report, and what is the actual question? So you need to formulate a well formulated question in this part. You can't have like a long page of things to investigate. It must be very concise. And and the method, what did you actually do to come up with the results? And materials, what materials did you use to in the actual method? And results, what did you come up with during the method? And discussion, and this is where you can take in your own opinions and arguments and interpretations of the actual results. Nowhere else can you do this, so that's important to remember. And discussion, you discuss your results and come up with a kind of a conclusion that in the last actual sub headline, you in the sub headline that is conclusion, you can clearly state the actual conclusion of the work. And this should be very short and consistent. You can't take up any new information that isn't in the previous parts. Reference list, mark up your references with the formal and correct referencing. Appendices, they should be numbered from 1 and upwards, and those are separate from the page numbers. And just to conclude, we could watch an example. As you can see here, they have a clear statement of the actual problem. They have a clear statement of the actual hypothesis, and they have a clear subline of the procedure, and they have marked the actual method or procedure in numbering from 1, 2, and 3 and so on, so you can follow the method very clearly. So this is how you can write a good report, and I hope this helped, and good luck. Bye.